everybody, and welcome back to the Pregame Network podcast. This is episode 78 of the greatest gaming news show on the internet that does not
Ooh,
allow to piss anybody off or offend anyone.
that was a new one.
I am
I
your
approve.
I am your gracious host Dan, joined by my bestest bud Anthony,
Oh
and
boy.
just like every other week, we are going to talk about video games and what we think
Yeah,
about shit that's happened this week. But not before we talk about what we've been playing.
of course.
So. Um, my list is a little bit longer than the past 2 weeks, but
Oh,
nothing like it's only like another 3 games.
I'll take
But
it. That's more of the stuff we love.
so I've been grinding out Battlefield. Obviously, that's
Mhm.
just I think that's just going to be a staple for me at this point.
Makes sense.
Um, I for whatever reason, like I fired up Darktide yesterday,
Yeah.
and I played for like a solid 4 hours. Like it
Damn.
was a Yeah, it was like a serious play session. Don't really know why. I just started playing and then I just didn't stop for like 4 hours.
Listen, sometimes you get hooked.
Yeah, so that definitely did something to my brain last night. Um, and then I actually started playing a new game today.
Ooh.
Have you ever heard of Ball Pit?
We talked about it very briefly 2 weeks ago or something like that
Did
because
we?
I brought it up extremely briefly. I don't know if it was on the podcast or if we were just in casual conversation because I did pick it up and try it at some point.
Oh, yeah. I played it for about 2 hours today,
Mhm.
and I fucking love it. I think it's great.
Oh,
It's just like a nice little time killer, and it's a weird fusion between like Animal Crossing and Brick Breaker, and like a little bit of Vampire Survivors thrown in there
okay.
also.
Yeah.
Um, it gets really addicting really quick, and it has a surprising amount of depth to it.
Huh.
So I've been I've been really enjoying it for the past 2 hours, and I just stopped playing just now, like once we
Yeah,
started
actually,
recording.
yeah, I saw that was actually what you were playing. I was curious about that. I mean, I'll be honest, my opinion on it, if you don't remember what I said, is I saw it in passing and I'm just like, oh, this looks really cool. Oh my god, it's on Game Pass. I brought it up and then I'm like, fuck, it's another roguelite. And power to you if you enjoy it, because you've always been more receptive to those kind of games. I'm not saying it's terrible by any means, but I'm glad you're getting more out of it than I did.
Yeah, I'm not like in love with roguelites or anything, but it has enough persistence where like I don't really mind it. And
Yeah.
again, it's a good time killer, so I sank my teeth into that for the past 2 hours, and
Mhm.
I don't know, I like it. I think it's a fun little game,
Power
and
to
I
you.
think this was also made by like one dude. It's another
Yeah,
one of those.
it is a small scale indie game. It's just it relies a lot on like skill management, small tweaks, fusing, the different balls that you're throwing together and all that. So it's definitely feasible for that to be made by a small team, and sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, yeah, and I play a little bit more Killing Floor as well.
Ah,
So that's really about it. So Battlefield, Darktide, Killing Floor, and
cool.
Ball Pit. So that's pretty much all I have been playing
There
this
you
week.
go.
I've been meaning to jump back into Space Marine.
Hmm.
I just haven't really gotten
Sometimes you just
around
don't
to
have the
it.
time.
Yeah, pretty much. There's just, I know I say this probably pretty often, but I just don't. There's too many games out that I want to spend like unreasonable amounts of time in that I just can't. Like I
Yeah.
just can't. It's not
No.
possible.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's definitely
which
it's at times you're always at a point where once again we always say it's better to have multiple choices than to have no choices at all. But sometimes you gotta like do the extra mile of like say like, oh, I'm gonna be free at this point. This is the game I want to line up, and that's not something you're always gonna be able to do. You know.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I've been playing. Why don't you lay it on me, pal?
All right. Well, I've been continuing Ninja Gaiden 4. I made the
Right.
mistake of putting it down for a day, and then it came back and kicked my ass. Because, well, I did mention when I talked about Ninja Gaiden 4 proper that while it is easier than the other Ninja Gaiden games, it's not particularly easy. It'll still kick your ass if you forget how to play the game from putting it down. So I'm gonna have to put everything else aside when I get a chance and jump back into it. I'm still enjoying it. I'm still making decent progress, but I got held up because I literally stopped at a boss, put it down for a day, came back to the boss. I'm like, whoa, I forgot everything. So I put
Yeah.
it down. I wrapped up Silent Hill 3. I'm not gonna do a whole tear down on that again. So like I said, it's a great little game. Looks good. One of the well-respected silent horror games, just not one of my favorites for a lot of reasons, the pacing being one of them. And then I have this buddy of mine who likes watching me play survival horror games, so I've just basically, like, each time I put it down, I'm like, okay, we're done. All right, the spooky season.
Weird.
We're on the we're you know, it's just chilling throughout the day. You'll stream a game or whatever, but he basically is just got. I showed him the 3 games that mattered in Silent Hill. I'm just like, all right, we're done, and somehow I ended up playing Silent Hill 2 Remake now. So now I'm doing a playthrough of that, and it's, you know, you've heard me rant about Bloober Team and the Silent Hill remakes and all that kind of stuff, and it's like. It honestly, I'm surprised at how, like, lopsided it is now that I'm playing it again. Like, I dislike a lot of the gameplay things they did more than I did the first time, but I like a lot of the atmospheric stuff they did more than I did the first time. It's weird. Like, one of these days I'm gonna have to do a whole teardown on that, but that's another thing I've been playing. Weirdly, I sat down and I played 2 very old at this point, not super old. I played 2 starters to these legacy fighting game franchises recently. I played Soul Edge, which,
Okay.
if you're not familiar with it, is the game. It's the first Soul Calibur game. They led with.
I was
Soul Edge
actually
first, yeah.
gonna say that. I was actually gonna ask about that.
It's an easy enough guess. The only reason you would know that is because in the US it was called Soul Blade, which does not exist in the Soul Calibur, it's whatever, but it's Soul Edge, and then they did Soul Calibur, blah, blah, blah. It is very rudimentary. It lacks a lot of the things you know Soul Calibur to have and enjoy. Still very interesting, and it's an interesting looking game, I would say, but it's still fun to play. And other than that, I played Dead or Alive 1, the first Dead or Alive, and it also lacks a lot of the things you would know Dead or Alive 1 for. The weirdest thing to me that both of these games are, it's like, oh, they're 3D fighters, you get to move, you get to do all these cool combos and stuff like that. And there's a lot of clashing and choreography. These games are basically just 2D fighters. Like, there's traditional jumping, which is very fucking weird, and it's early in that, so it's almost like Virtua Fighter, where you're jumping like 20 feet into the air, and there's stuff you can do with landing attacks. But it was weird to go back to those games. They're great. I really did enjoy going back and playing them, but it's just very rudimentary. It's before they really leaned into the things that made them the awesome things that they are. You can see a lot of the roots there, like, but, you know, so yeah, that was a lot of fun. The last thing I really tried getting into this week, aside from everything else in my rotation, is I did a little bit more in Genshin Impact than I normally do, because they put out this big update called Miliastra, and all you need to know about it is it's the user content tool update. So there's a whole hub world where you get to play everybody's different games, and my understanding is that the tools are really in depth. Like, they give you a lot. It's the Portal mode of Genshin Impact, essentially. From Battlefield. You know, if I had to equate it,
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah, not Portal, the game Portal, but Portal is in Battlefield Portal, so you can make all these different modes and games. I haven't played too much of it, but I did play around in it, and there's some neat things you can do in there. It also came with, and this made me laugh, they added yet another gacha system to the fucking game, because one of the main things is they give you a free unit that's customizable. Like, it's the first time there's a customizable character where you can do all the little bits and bobs with the outfits. Like, sometimes there's alternate costumes, but this is the first time that's fully customizable. And that's for free and everything's like that. The gacha system is a little ridiculous, though, because you get the units very slowly. You roll for cosmetic gear because, I'll get into that in a second. You roll for cosmetic gear, and then when you get them, you're just getting the blueprints, so you need to collect the materials to make the outfits. It is probably the most pain-in-the-ass system they've added to that game. So it was a little shocking for me. Even my friends that are big into Genshin Impact, they even say, like, this might be the worst monetization thing they've added to the game so far. But it's them reading the room, because a lot of, and again, I don't play all these, but I do hear them in the news. There's a lot of gacha games that are coming out in the near future or in the far off future, and all of their plans are everything gameplay related from now on is free. They're doing the Call of Duty route. But the flip side of that is obviously they're going to make their money on cosmetics. So now Genshin's trying to have their cake and eat it too, because like, oh, the new guys are going to do this, so we'll just throw it on top of our systems. But it's, I mean, it's nice. I like the fact that there's finally like a little bit of customization, and the unit they give you is apparently not just some shit unit they cranked out in a day. So like, that's kind of nice. That's pretty much what I've been playing. The last thing I will note, because it's kind of relevant, is Ghost of Yotei, right?
Okay.
I said a while ago during one of their showings that they introduced a mode where it was black and white, and they gave you like lo-fi hip-hop music.
Yeah.
I went, Dan, and I put my money where my mouth is, and I went and listened to the music. It is 50-50. Some of the tracks are god-awful, and some of the tracks are really nice. I guess god-awful is like a bad way to put it, but some of them are just like, eh, and like one or two of them like, oh, this is pretty good. But the problem is, there's apparently only like 6 tracks, unless I didn't get all of the tracks. I'm not entirely certain, so it's another one of those things they highlighted, and then they didn't like really put the pedal on that, so it's like anyone who was excited for that, I imagine, would be disappointed by the playlist selection. It is what it is. I will say that in the process of going to listen to those songs, it was a bit harder for me to find information on them. And the only reason I bring that up is that something you can tell about general interest in like a product of any kind or a form of media of any kind is how quick smaller niche spaces make things available. So like things like torrent sites, things like soundtrack download sites.
That makes sense.
And I could kind of see like the smaller aspects of it. Like when a new game comes out, if it's got a good like foot, if it's got good legs, like it hits the ground running or whatever, right? You can typically find all the side media like pretty much right away if you know where to look. It was hard to find this particular soundtrack, which makes me wonder like who really gives a shit about it, But yeah, so that's all I've been playing and what I've been listening to, I guess, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So just before we started recording, you enlightened me to the fact that you have a couple updates that you wanted to fill me in on.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me what that is?
I will hit you with those. That's, like I said, I just want to get the updates out of the way early from now on. I mentioned at one point to you that Capcom was starting to do pay-per-view for their tournament series, the Capcom Pro Tour, whatever they call it, right? You remember everybody said something about that? They were feeling that out. After weeks of backlash and people constantly complaining, Capcom put out a massive statement. And when I say massive, I mean it was basically like, you know how EULAs are typically written very long so that nobody fucking reads them?
Yeah.
It was basically that scale for a statement. I had to I skimmed this thing. It was like 1,000 words or something ridiculous like that. I skimmed this fucking thing and I found the 245 words in there that matter. And basically what it boiled down to is, we hear you, but you're still paying. It really highlighted pretty much like it's written in there where they're just like, we'll consider other options of the chain. Maybe it'll be a slight price decrease, but they're sticking to this model. It really highlighted what I said about sustainability, because this was written in there. In the section called Background of the Pay-Per-View Decision, they wrote, the decision to introduce pay-per-view live streaming for Capcom Cup 12 and Street Fighter League World Championship 2025 stems from our commitment to promoting our esports business in a sustainable manner over the medium to long term. So it pretty much, like I said, you've heard me talk about esports before, how it's just not a profitable venture, and there's kind of like a bubble window. This, like I said, this is Capcom trying to squeeze more money out of it so they can at the very least continue it or break even or something, because these guys lose money on that all the time.
Oh God, it's an extremely long-winded way of saying we hear you.
Yeah, exactly. We hear you, but you're still paying, is what I got from that. So the only other update that I have to put out there is that recently in the Nintendo lawsuit situation with Power World, if you remember, they actually lost something. They actually lost one of the patent. Hold on, let me pull this up real quick. I had this written down. I don't know where it went. Okay, so the Japanese offices rejected their patent about using objects to capture creatures, and that is apparently going to Thank God, because they normally get away with fucking everything, and that
Yeah.
basically seriously damages their intentions in the Power World lawsuit. It basically means they're either gonna have to settle or they might not win this thing, especially now with Power World having backing from other companies. And the word is that, like, if it goes that way, Nintendo will actually have lost a substantial amount of money. Not like kill the company money, but like they will not recoup the losses from this frivolous lawsuit that they involved themselves in. So it was definitely nice to see them get a little bit of a gut punch, because they certainly deserve it.
Something to be humbled by.
Exactly. And with that, Dan, that's all of our what we've been playing and our updates out of the way. You can lead us into the news proper.
Okay, cool. Well, I guess I'll start off with something on the. I usually start smaller, but I'll go with a bigger one today. I'm sure you've heard about Amazon laying off 14,000 employees or
Something like that, yeah.
developers. So they were laying them off from the gaming division of Amazon, and then coupled with that, the MMO New World just is complete. It's done.
Oh, it's done? I didn't hear about that.
It's going into maintenance mode, but the game is receiving no additional content, and they pretty much all but said that they're shutting it down. And it's not even like it was a bad game, so I don't really know the reason behind that. Well, I kind of do. I mean, it's all profit based, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing that this all traces back to, and you can continue and correct me if it relates to that, but I think every now and again, like when layoffs like this happen, be it from Amazon or any company, there's always like an article that slips out where somebody's just like, oh, they were trying to compete with Steam. Like a lot of these companies break into gaming and their like bar is set way too high. It's not like, hey, we're a big company, let's break into gaming a little bit. They immediately want killer numbers. Like they want to be the king of the hill when they enter, and that's always a doomed to fail thing. The only one who hasn't failed entirely is Epic, and that's just because they have fuck you money, so they don't have to bow out. But
yeah. So I mean, that's a thing that happened. It's kind of, I'm sure that a good chunk of the people that were laid off were probably redundant, like we always say on this podcast. Are just kind of grifters, for lack of a better term, and don't really have a place in game development. But like, I don't know, 14,000 is a lot of people. That's the whole company.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, like I said, they come out swinging for a lot of this, but the 1,400 is I forget.
It's 14,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, 14,000. I'm sorry, I said 40. Yeah, I don't remember what the cut is, because obviously that's company wide cuts. I don't think that's all in one particular division. I think that's company wide.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, layoffs in general, you know my opinion on them in the gaming sector is like, typically I'm okay with them, because nine times out of 10 these people aren't hiring their best, and I prefer some of the bloat get trimmed down. So a AAA or whatever, a publisher getting cut down, no skin off my nose.
Yeah. So I mean, that's something else that took place. Moving on with gaming companies not doing so hot. Remedy reported a pretty big loss after their most recent earnings call, and then also after the Firebreak major update went live. What was the number? I have it here. It's a 32% drop in revenue. So it's a lot. It's pretty big.
I mean, what do they even put out, really? They don't put out a whole lot.
Well, they have Control. They still get sales from that,
of course.
Believe it or not. Which I know I've talked about Control a couple times on the show, but I played through it once and then I tried to do it again. I just couldn't do it. It was not really for me at that point. So it was Control, Alan Wake 2, and Firebreak. That's pretty much all that they have out in circulation at the moment.
The best way, I mean, I made this comparison to a certain degree when we talked about them last, where I said, like, they want to be like Rockstar, where they feel and they kind of get humbled by stuff like this. And I'm not saying this to punch down on them again, or punch up, I should say. They're a billion-dollar company regardless of how much they've lost. they have the release schedule of a Rockstar, and not every company can. I mean, nobody should really be doing this where they make like one game or one game like every 5 years, and it's like a massive mess. But it's just like some companies can't stand to do that. So if you make Alan Wake 2, it's like, okay, that's something people wanted for a while. I think you may have waited a little bit too long to really build up on the hype, and there's some writing changes that I challenge, and you make a Control, and that's like all you really have done as far as I can recall in like the last decade. Like, you've slowed to that crawl. So like, even though FBC Firebreak was a low budget title, it not doing well can really show in the numbers, because you're not you don't have like that revenue stream to just keep building and building and building.
I reiterate, who the fuck asked for that game? What?
I don't know,
How?
like, I see. I think they just wanted to. It was an in-house experiment, and they also wanted to expand the universe a little bit. I hate shitting on Firebreak because I am for.
They tried something different,
Yeah,
I can't really fault them for that.
Yeah, I'm for companies trying new things, recycling things. I'm actually fine with companies recycling to try new things, like, there's nothing wrong with that in my eyes, but it's just like, the execution fell so flat. And apparently, like I said last time, or touched on last time, apparently the writing was on the wall on the inside. QA testers were trying to get them to, turn or change certain things, and they just were not receptive to feedback at all. So
sounds like Bungie. I mean, I don't know. I
sounds
blacked
like
out. What happened?
Sounds like insert AAA company here.
Yeah, so that's something I wanted to just touch on briefly. Let's see. I'm gonna kind of jump back and forth. So on the smaller front, Helldivers 2, the CEO recently came out, and I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially said that we made the conscious decision to take a little bit of a break from making additional content and focus on fixing the game. I think they said that they wanted to have some kind of a patch or a hot fix out to address the overall tech debt of that game every 2 weeks, which I think is a great cadence. And I think that that is the right decision to make at this point, because I haven't played Helldivers since whenever we played last. Let me check right now, actually.
Like
I last
month
played
at the
in
most, I imagine.
September 27th. So
A little over
yeah,
a month.
a little bit,
Very shortly.
a little over a month. Yeah, but that's probably the longest I've gone without playing Helldivers, even just solo. Like, it's a fun game, but I can't, in good conscience, fucking boot it up when it could just hard lock my laptop at any given moment, and then my computer just restarts on its own because it ran into whatever it did behind the scenes. I don't want to risk that, because I know of at least one person whose CPU just died because of it.
Yeah, that's where everybody kind of like has a moment of pause. Like, that's where you people will argue about content up and down balancing. I know you and Joe had at it, with it, talking about this fucking company just constantly. Like, every week with you guys, it would be talking about like content, balancing content, and private messages, everything. But it's another one. It's just like, booting this up might kill your computer.
Yeah, I'm not willing to take that risk. I'm just not. So once I know that the technical issues are somewhat under control, then I will happily jump back in. And also, Arrowhead went on a complete tirade, like releasing new content like every 6 weeks. It was actually kind of impressive just how often they released new war bonds. I mean, yeah, you had to pay $10 for it, sure, but I think the value proposition, for the most part, on average per war bond, was worth it. So they packed a lot of content into this game since it launched, like a year, almost 2 years ago at this point, which is fucking ridiculous to even think about. So yeah, if you want to take a break to focus on like the overall health of the game, good choice, guys. Good choice. So something small that I wanted to just touch on. That is in fact a thing.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about some, nothing like quote unquote news, but just topics that I thought, or a topic that I thought would be interesting, and that is, yeah, okay, fine. That's just the overall reception to Arc Raiders.
All right,
that game came out 2 days ago at this point, no, 3 days ago, and I genuinely have not seen one negative thing about this game.
Oh yeah.
Like, you may or may not like the extraction genre. That's
Hmm.
subjective, of course, and everyone is entitled to their opinion on that. But everyone that I've seen that like went into it in good faith and wanted to give it a fair shake, every single friend, content creator, person that I talk to online, whatever, all good things. I have rarely ever seen that,
Hmm.
and I think this harkens back to what you bring up in particular, like a lot, and that is just the level of talent at Embark is head and shoulders above, I think, many of their other peer studios,
Yeah, or
and
or
it's
at the
obvious.
very least, like talent per like for the size, like the scale of
Yeah,
talent, I guess you could say.
un- unless I'm remembering this completely wrong, Arc Raiders was built inside of Unreal Engine 5,
Okay.
which should actually speak volumes because there are a lot of other games that I currently play that were made in Unreal 5 that if you just showed me these two games and said, like which one looks better, I would say Arc every single time. The other game that I'm talking about happens to be Killing Floor 3.
Mm.
Um, but I think it really speaks to what a talented development studio can accomplish when they actually have the talent, the funding, the numbers, whatever, or
Yeah.
and a clear and concise vision. That's equally as important as all those other things, in my opinion.
Okay.
Um, the reception to Arc Raiders has been nothing but positive across the board, and the concurrent player
Yes.
count keeps on rising.
Hmm.
Actually, while I have this stream of consciousness going, they are the fourth most played game on Steam at this very moment, sitting at
Oh.
304,000 players. The 24-hour all-time peak is 354,000, only being beaten out right now by Battlefield, actually. Battlefield is sitting at 388,000. I mean, look, for a smaller studio to release, an indie adjacent game, this is pretty fucking remarkable. Um, I don't think they're owned by anybody. I could be wrong. That's gonna bother me
I know
now.
that
Um,
was it NetEase is involved?
that is
Isn't that
possible.
isn't
Yeah.
NetEase involved
Nexon.
with
It's Nexon.
Nexon? That's right. Because
Yeah.
I was sitting there, I'm just like, I know there's like a foreign company in play because we talked about it once with Joe and he was quick to bring that up, and it's like that's something you always need to watch out for. But I think that's like the only major player involved with Embark right now. I think I don't know
Yeah.
if that carries over to Arc Raiders. I'd imagine there's some partnership there, but I didn't look into it yet.
Yeah, I don't know how deep that relationship goes, but
Yeah.
I just Googled it, and yeah, Nexon does own Embark, but they must be giving them complete creative control because they're doing everything right. I mean, the two games that they have released so far have nothing but praise.
Hmm.
So it's very interesting to see, and I still want to try Arc Raiders. We just need a third person.
Yes. Yes.
Um, and I don't really know, like, I'm not in any rush at this point, but
Yeah. That's fine.
the more I see of the game, the more interested I get because it does have like this DMZ type of feeling to it.
Hmm.
And the game started as a PvE only looter shooter. So that caught my attention from the beginning.
Hmm.
As the years went on, they said that they pivoted to a PvEVP extraction shooter, which I was also fine with because I liked the idea of the genre. The only game that I really loved in that genre was DMZ, and
Yeah.
there really hasn't been anything else to really scratch that itch. And call me a filthy casual, whatever, fucking eat my ass. I don't really care. But the like the modern warfare DNA mixed with like going out and completing missions that range in difficulty and how in depth they were in the world. And yeah, you can run into other squads, but like the meat and potatoes of it that I loved so much was the fact that you got these contracts, and depending on what they were, how far into it you were, they could be very difficult. That like really required legitimate communication and teamwork between your squad, and that's why I loved it so much.
Hmm.
And I do really like PVE looter shooters, so that played a part. So when Embark said that they were gonna make uh, Arc PVE only, I was pretty excited. And then they said they pivoted to the PVEVP. I'm like, okay, like that could work too. But now it's out, and I have nobody to play with. um, but again, going back to my original point, uh, Arc Raiders looks great. I have not heard a single negative thing about it, which is kind of mind blowing to me. And Embark just continues to carry this reputation of they know exactly what they're doing. There's really no bullshit going on at that company,
Yeah.
and they have the talent. And for those of you who are listening that don't know, Embark is mostly comprised of the devs that formerly made all of the great Battlefield games, Battlefield
Hmm.
3, 4, 1. There's probably some others sprinkled in there too, but those are like the big three that everyone
Yeah.
rants and raves over. Those guys made that, and like that should speak volumes.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know if you've been paying attention to Arc Raiders at all or the reception surrounding it, but I just wanted
So,
to get those thoughts out.
yeah, you've probably seen more in the way of reception than I have, but I have had a very similar experience where it's like I see the player numbers going up. I know one or two people that have played it and have really enjoyed it. I've seen, reception be almost universally positive. I don't think, and I say almost universally just because I'm not that full sample size. I'm sure there's somebody out there that wrote a bad review or had a bad time or whatever, but it's so far it's been, as you said, almost universally positive, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, other than that, I don't have too much to say on Arc Raiders. You pretty much covered my opinion on it as a whole. The only other thing I would note is that people pointed out the fact that it's like, why would Arc Raiders try this? Why would they try coming out in between Battlefield and Call of Duty? Do you want to talk about what happened to the last game that tried to come out in between? And it's like they knocked
First
it
of
out of the
all,
park.
fuck you. Second of all, I didn't even think of that
Yeah.
because now that we're here and this game is coming out right in between Battlefield and COD, and it's doing amazing, it makes me that much more depressed that Titanfall got put out to pasture when I'm why, Anthony?
I don't.
You
I didn't kill Titanfall.
emotional
Don't look at me.
damage.
But yeah, that's the only other thing I would
Son of
really
a
say that I
bitch.
heard is people were making that just like, oh my god. Like before it, I think there was a couple cries like, do you just want to end up like Titanfall? But it's like, man, they really knocked it out
They
of the
knocked
park.
it out of the park. Yeah, they really did a good job with it. So I do look forward to the day that I can jump in with
Yeah,
you and
whoever,
whoever else. Yeah.
you and
Um,
Third Man.
yeah, pretty much. I don't think Harrison has any interest in this
I don't.
game.
I don't think Harrison has any interest in it. I don't think Luke isn't around nearly enough to warrant like, okay, you want to play this once every other week or so, and we don't have anyone
Yeah.
else really in that space. Everyone else has either said I don't like playing shooters, or I only play one shooter until it burns out. And that's it.
Oh God, life
Yeah.
sucks and then you die.
Hey, we have
Um,
all that. You played Ball Pit before, wasn't that great?
That's
Put a
true. I
fucking
had a really
smile
good
on your
time with.
face.
I did have a very good time with Ball Pit. But yeah, Arc Raider is doing very, very well.
Yeah.
It's probably only going to grow, and you know, Embark is definitely so. Like, I know I'm kind of backtracking here a little bit, but before Arc Raiders even came out, Embark went out of their way to say that nothing was going to happen to the finals. They're still supporting it. It's still going to get
Yes.
content
Yep.
for like years and years and years to come. So I'm very
Huzzah.
pleased about that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but I can only imagine what they have planned for the future of Arc. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but um, I'm eventually gonna pick it up. I just
Yeah.
need
It's
a
just it's
need a plan.
yeah.
I think that like if it was just you and I that jumped in together, I think duos could still probably be worth
Potentially.
it.
Yeah.
But I would still want to see like where, how it shakes out.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
of course.
so yeah. Anywho, so that was the Arc Raiders reception topic that I wanted to touch on. Um, let's see what else we got. Battlefield 6 Battle Royale mode came out. Did we talk about that at all last week or no?
We we probably talked about it very very briefly, but our main focus was on things like the skins and the cosmetics.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk about this very much because I don't really care about it all that much. I'm not,
Hmm.
you know me, I'm not big into BR, but I was watching some gameplay and I literally had the thought of like if you put Battlefield 6 RedSec right next to Call of Duty Warzone and like only flash both games at me for like 10 seconds or so, I probably would have trouble figuring out which one is which. They look very,
Really?
very similar. Yeah. They look very similar. Yeah.
That's
That
funny.
was the very first thing that I noticed. I was like, "Whoa, like this is strange." And even on the Steam library, like the cover art for Battlefield, I should actually send you a screenshot of this because if you didn't know any better, if you looked at it quickly, you might think it was COD. Yeah, yeah. Hold on, I'm gonna send it to you right now
Yeah, go
because
for it.
it's like I really want your opinion on this.
Right, hit me.
Let's see. I'm gonna put it in the workspace channel.
Let's see.
Yeah, yeah.
Outside,
Mine is
outside,
like fucking
outside,
the
outside.
Predator in the background.
Listen,
It looks extremely
outside,
similar.
outside of like the Battlefield style, color gradient, where they do very harsh oranges out on top of
And you
cooler
can see the
colors.
lens flares too.
Yeah, like I could mistake this for Warzone at
I'm
a
telling you, if you
glance.
looked at it for a well, this is just the cover art. If you looked at it for a split second, even
Yeah.
like if you look to the right where it said like next to Battlefield 6, it says RedSec. That is where the CDL logo used to be on the old Call of Duty cover art. It's
That's
like
pretty funny.
by the numbers, like the same layout. Even the season one font is very very similar. I don't think it's identical because that's probably like grounds for a lawsuit or something, but
Mhm.
it is extremely similar. And the only reason why I wouldn't like just assume that it's COD again is because there's no like cartoon characters on the cover. Uh, but yeah, man, it just it caught me off guard. So anywho, RedSec is out. I have little to no interest in it. I'm very
Yeah,
happy
I
with the
gotcha.
multiplayer. Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with that. And let's see what else. The very last thing that I'll bring up as far as like what I have for news is kind of a light week for me.
Mhm.
It's not even news. It's more of an opinion piece, but I found it a
Oh,
little
really?
thought provoking. It's from PC Gamer, and the headline is just Valve doesn't get anywhere near enough criticism for their like the skin economy that they have. And
Yeah.
the more I thought about it, the more I was like, huh, this is actually this guy's got a point. Actually, the full headline is Valve does not get anywhere near enough criticism. Daisy creator Dean Hall says the gambling mechanics of Valve's monetization strategy has absolutely no place in video games.
Mm.
And I am inclined to agree with that, and I think the only reason why Valve has gotten away with it for as long as they have is because I think they kind of take a hands-off approach, which is very
Yes.
beneficial to
Yeah.
the player base,
Yeah.
and they are not advertising this shit everywhere.
Of
Like
course.
if you follow video games, you're going to see an ad for Battlefield or for COD. Like you're
Yeah.
not going to see an ad for Counter-Strike. So I don't
Yeah.
know. What are
No,
your thoughts on
I
that?
completely agree. I mean, it ties in with like the Counter Strike stuff we talked about last week, where like they basically turned the economy on a dime, and it like it crashed these massive markets based on how they handled it. My only disadvantage here is I'm not privy to how that kickback goes to Valve. I'm sure they make something off of it. I forget exactly
Well,
how it works.
they make 30% for every game sold. Okay, I don't know how like
No,
back end microtransactions would
yeah,
work.
exactly. That's what I'm talking. Like I know their game cuts. I know that stuff. I'm talking more about the like the in-game gambling economy, so to speak. Like all that kind of stuff, like what we talked about with skins and Counter-Strike and whatnot, and basically what you're talking about now. As far as how they get away with it, it's a mixture of all these different things. Like you mentioned turning a blind eye to it. I mean, Valve is a very passive company. We talked about it
Yeah.
not all that long ago, where we talked about Valve and how we talked about them being kind of like a golden standard as far as just developing games because of their structure. But a lot of that is fronted by Steam's complete dominance over the PC landscape, the kickbacks they get on that, the fact that all of their games have very large audiences, so their reputation is very hard to damage. It's I'm not saying, again, I'm not well versed enough in exactly what their hand is in the cosmetic economy outside of hosting it. But if you wanted to be a company that could get away with shady stuff in the background, it would be Valve. They would be the company set to do the most that way. And I do agree, because it's like I said this last week when we were talking about the knife situation. I'm just like, I do agree that, it really doesn't have, it's not healthy, for games in general to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely not. And like, we're not even. There's a lot of money involved with the CS:GO, not or no Counter-Strike 2, but overall economy. It's just like a little nauseating just how much money we're talking about here.
There's a lot.
And nobody says a fucking thing. It's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, actually. So many companies have gotten shit over the years for quote unquote surprise mechanic, but nobody has ever said boo about Valve. So
It's
I don't know.
it's
I
just
just think it's very interesting.
like I said, it's right place, right time. It was ingrained very early on to a lot of these. Like, they were, I wouldn't say early adopters, but it's just like they implemented it into existing games. So it's not like here's a brand new game and then audiences have multiple months to scrutinize their policies. It might pop up a couple times when they implement these things, but and at this point it's just very ingrained into a lot of their games at this point, even in games that didn't have them initially, like Team Fortress 2 has like the whole cosmetic thing. Counter-Strike, which we've talked about constantly, didn't initially have that. It was originally just a shooter, and then Global Offensive came and they added the cosmetics, and then Counter-Strike 2 came, and it's all building off of each other, because ultimately it's still the core game Counter-Strike, just with revisions and slight alterations. Like, even Counter-Strike 2 is like that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that is pretty much everything that I have as far as news goes that I've been following. It's been a pretty light week for me. I'm sure you have at least a couple things, so why don't you hit me?
Well, we'll see how many I can get to. The first thing that came to my attention is Naoki Hamaguchi. You know who that is? Probably not. But I'm going to let you answer. Even questions I know you definitely don't have an answer to, I want to give you the opportunity to surprise me.
Like, Google it real quick.
No, you're not allowed to
Can you use it
Google
in a sentence?
No. If you Google it and give me the answer, I will say a phrase that you definitely do not want to hear. It'll elicit bad memories in you.
Now I want to know what you were going to say.
Well, give me a guess. Do you know or do you not know?
No, I have no fucking idea, Anthony.
Thanks for playing. All right, so next up we have new boss, same as the old boss.
Only I could actually kill this boss.
Yes, you can. Anyway, so Naoki Hamaguchi is what is he? Is he like the lead developer, the lead producer, or the project lead on I forget, because all these things blur together and they're all on the same page anyway, so it doesn't matter. But he's a lead on the Final Fantasy VII Remake games, right? And he was recently he did, like, every now and again they do press circuits where they just get interviewed by a bunch of people and then different articles trickle out. And basically he's had a few things. One thing I'm just gonna say, he defended yellow paint. I'm not gonna bitch about it every fucking week, but I hate it when people do that. Fuck yellow paint and fuck you. I don't care what game it's in. I think it's stupid, and aside from being belittling to the player, I think it shows a lack of level design experience that they feel the need to integrate that and can't better do it. You're either basically with that, you're either catering to the lowest common denominator, or you are inexperienced in level design and can't create better ways to do it. In both cases, it's BS. Just get it out of here. Yeah. I don't care how much of a non-issue some people think it is. It's bullshit. But the main thing I wanted to talk about is he said in one of his quotes, he said, if you have the opportunity, if you have never experienced Final Fantasy before, play the remake first and enjoy it as a fresh experience on its own. That's what he said. And he later did some things where he's like, oh, don't, the original's still worth playing, but you just play the remake first. And in the case of Final Fantasy VII Remake, the games, I say it's a spoiler, but the games have been out for a while at this point. The lead is no longer buried. You can find this. Final Fantasy VII Remake is kind of like hinted to also be a sequel. Like there's some time shenanigans going on in there. So it's like that doesn't even make sense from like the typical like the storytelling standpoint, right? Because Final Fantasy VII, there's been a lot of side games and side media, and it's like one big experience that you need to play. I really don't see the reason to alienate the original or like pit fans against each other, because like when you say that online, you're gonna have a ton of people who have no interest in older games or no interest in anything outside of what's put in front of them that second, picking fights with people who have loved the series. I'm not even saying like older guys that played it when it first came out, but I mean like people who are like, I don't know, who found the games 5 years ago and really loved the original experience, because there are people out there that do appreciate video games as a medium beyond the like the technical aspect of it, right? But yeah, this shit, whenever they say this shit, it always bothers me, because aside from my whole opinion on remakes and stuff like that, guess what? The only reason this guy has a job, an entire career, is because of those games. And I mean that two ways. This guy in particular, he was inspired to get into the games industry by Final Fantasy VI, the game before 7, the one that is like still pixels and 2D and it's icky to newer players or whatever, but it's, you know, that's what inspired him to get into games. Specifically, he said he wanted to make games of that quality. He was wowed that much by it. The second reason this bothers me for this guy is because his entire body of work that he's been credited for, as far as you can find on him, is the Final Fantasy series. Without those old games he's saying like to like essentially ignore, he would not have a career twofold. In fact, the compilation of Final Fantasy VII, which is like this umbrella term for all those, you know, side games and media that I referenced before. Basically, if you make a Final Fantasy VII game or a game in that universe, it's under the umbrella of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII. That makes up a third of his known works, and he has the audacity to say, I'll play the remake first, which is bullshit to begin with, but also bullshit because apparently like there's like story fuckery in it where you're really supposed to know what came before it. You know, you can get away playing it, of course, but like it shouldn't be your first experiences. And it really just, between this guy saying what he did, all the stuff that's been going on with Halo Campaign Evolved, and last week when or 2 weeks ago when I mentioned Resident Evil and how like the guys at the top of Capcom basically said like they didn't see a reason or a purpose when they remade the games and those are the superior experiences. It's like all of these companies and the people in them, they need to start remembering that games are two parts. There's creativity and there's technology. And all these companies only look at it with the technology lens, where it's just like they see these as products to be replaced and not pieces of art, which they are. And I don't know, man, it just really bothered me, because aside from the fact that that's a worrying thing to hear from somebody who's in charge of like the current remakes, you know, for that to be his first thing. I'm sure, like, listen, I'm not saying he hates the old games, but he didn't lead with the original game is amazing and all this and yada yada and what a privilege, blah blah blah. And I'm not saying lip service would have made it better, but I'm just saying like his priority was to say, if you have the experience, try new product first, and only pay lip service to the old product because it is one of the most renowned games ever made, Final Fantasy VII. Yeah. Regardless, like I like other games in the series better. I respect its legacy. You know, I understand what it inspired and what it led to. But yeah, so I was a bit miffed at yet another creator in the industry, if you can believe it.
Oh, you? How? That's weird.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there'll be another one.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure we'll have plenty to say. But you know, on the topic of remakes and whatnot, Daniel,
Anthony,
there's been a lot of Halo news and discussion since the reveal of Campaign Evolved.
Boy.
I don't know how much you've seen of it.
I haven't been burying my head in the sand, but at the same time, I haven't been paying it that much attention either, because I already kind of made up my mind when I saw the demo. Yeah. And unless they change, I don't know, fucking a lot of it, like,
yeah, I'm not particularly.
I don't have a great. Yeah, I'm not filled with confidence.
Yeah.
Because like I think, I don't know if it was you I was talking to or somebody else, but it's kind of like a question of who is this for? You know, all the OG fans. Yeah, probably. Like, all the OG fans are gonna hate what you've done with just how the game feels in general, and then all the new fans probably don't even give a shit because they're too busy playing COD and Fortnite. Yeah. So like, I don't know who this is for, man.
Yeah, but that reveal kicked off a lot of discussion because not all of the discussion is about the remake. There's obviously talk about the remake, but not all of it is that way. There's also been, because of course there is, whenever there's a conflict over new product coming out, right? Just to kind of get into new products coming out, there's always a conflict between the people that want things to remain very faithful to the franchise they love or they know, and then there's the group of people who will just eat whatever's put in front of them and think that things should change for broader audiences because, again, they don't necessarily care about it as an art form. They just say like, oh, more people is better because good. They don't really know. There's good intentions under there, but they don't typically have very strong opinions, or if they do, they're hiding them. But there's also been a lot of revisionism around Halo 5 and Halo Infinite, and there was also a handful of stories going around, like everybody's shitting on Microsoft as a whole, which a lot of it is deserved, trust me.
Yes,
we'll hash out a few of these things. Firstly, there are people, for the first time ever in a long time, because I think word was that like Microsoft and or somebody up top basically said Halo 5's reception was really bad, you shouldn't acknowledge it. So Halo 5 turned 10 recently, and they actually acknowledged it on social media. They didn't do anything crazy, they didn't update the game or anything, but they're just like, oh, 10 years of Halo 5, and everybody was kind of fucking shocked. And because of that presence on social media, everybody immediately started talking about how great Halo 5 was, and I'm just like, listen, it's not a terrible game. There's a lot of fun to be had in there, but it's not all that great. It has a passable campaign, and that's only if you ignore all of its like implications in the Halo universe. And it's got a fun game mode. It's got like one fun game mode in like what was it? Something Fiesta. What was it called? There's something.
No, it was Husky Raid.
Husky Raid. There we go. Husky Raid. Yeah. It's like, okay, listen, I enjoyed Husky Raid too, but that doesn't mean Halo 5 is some hidden gem. We were all correct about it. We don't need to go back and talk about how great Halo 5 was. There were some neat things in there, but it's not a great Halo game. And then people are doing the same for Halo Infinite. And you know me, and I know you. We've talked up and down about how Halo Infinite is probably the best of the 343 games as far as how it plays. It feels great to play. It feels really, really good to play.
There's plenty wrong with it. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
At least it feels really good to play.
Yeah. Like there's plenty wrong with it. The story is like another reboot of the story. They one of the biggest problems.
God damn it! They actually managed to solve the sprinting debate, which no one thought was possible.
I think that was, I'm still not a big fan of sprinting, but like making it borderline useless and only meant to chain into other movements, that's like one thing you can do. But you have that. You have the fact that, like, again, like I was getting at, like the story is just another reboot, which really hurts all of the 343 games. The game really dragged its feet with content. There's only so many ways we can say that. It was originally going to be like a 10-year plan, and they botched that early on because they just could not do it. Both of these games, there is fun to be had in them. There's fun to be had. They are not seller experiences, and people really need to calm down when they're talking about them. Other than that, people were bringing up like all the different, MMO projects that got canceled and like the shady nature of them. It's like, oh, we were going to do a Halo game that's like thousands and thousands of years before the first Halo game. It was supposed to be this massive immersive thing, where you play as multiple factions, and like people are just like, oh, well, it would have cost more to make, and they wouldn't have gotten an immediate return on investment, so like they canceled it, and they're shitting on the, it's like, oh, it would have been the most amazing thing ever. Meanwhile, it's like there's no guarantee of that. Like the guys that were making it, Ensemble Studios, I fucking love that original team. There's no guarantee this would have been amazing. It would have probably been better than what we got, but let's rein in it a little bit. But the bulk of the discussion this week was obviously about campaign evolved, and as more people had the time to sit down and sift through it, right? Because there's a lot you can say, like when they announce it, there's things you notice, whether it's good or bad. There's things that the developers say that you confirm to be true later, and there's things that they say that are just flat out false, and it kind of shapes the overall perception of what's going on with whatever particular game got announced. But, overall, you mentioned your opinion of it, and you haven't seen much more of that. I am getting very, very strong Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster vibes,
Uh-oh.
and that's not good. And I say this for multiple reasons, because I want to give them credit right off the bat. I do think that, in this weird comparison I'm making, I do think Campaign Evolved had more effort put into it than the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster from what I've seen. But the problem is, the effort that was put into it, it wasn't necessarily in a good way. Like, there's a lot of art style changes I don't like. There's level geometry changes I don't like. There's all the gameplay things that we talk about that I don't particularly like. Like, we talked about the health packs and ADSing and stuff like that.
Yep.
My whole thing is, like, ADSing just really doesn't have a place in Halo to begin with. There are some guns you can do that with, Sniper, Magnum, stuff like that, where it makes sense. The assault rifle, you don't need to aim down the sight with. The needler, you don't need to aim down the sight with. The shotgun, you don't need to aim down the sight with. It's just unnecessary baggage.
Yeah.
Things like, the health pack is like, I actually think removing the health packs and balancing it around like what Halo is traditionally known for is an avenue you can pursue. I'm not saying I'm inherently for it or against it. It's a way you can go with it, because I've kind of explained my position on remakes is like, you can either backport certain ideas or you can try something new as long as it's done well. I just don't think the execution is done that well. One of the comparisons, one of the many reasons I make the comparison to the Deluxe Remaster is it really does seem like there was a conscious effort to sand away any kind of unique gameplay aspects that either made it feel like, outdated or whatever, or difficult in some way, shape, or form. That's the best way I can really put it. It does feel like, I think I touched on it when it got announced. It's like almost like a dressing up of something somebody is embarrassed about to attract new people.
You can only polish a turd so many times.
Yeah, and like, this isn't
Not
a turd
saying
that
Halo's
even
a turd.
yeah,
But
you can't, like, it's you know me, I fucking love survival horror games, right? No matter how many small changes you make to the survival horror formula, you are just going to end up with something that the survival horror guys don't like, or the guys breaking into this don't like. It's very rare. Like, you're not going to get my buddy Dan to play a fixed camera survival horror game, and changing how they work is just going to piss me off, It's like, I would always have this conversation with Joe about fighting games. It's like, no matter how simple you make the fighting game inputs, you are not going to get Joe to play fighting games. It's not for him. Like, there's just things you can't do to attract people and things you shouldn't do. And, I talked about aim down sight. I talked about the health packs. I think there's an argument you can be made there. Not that I think that they're going to be doing it correctly. I'm just saying, there's an argument to be had there. There's shit like hit markers, which that should be something that you should be able to toggle on and off, and I think that's like almost inoffensive. Really, you should leave it off by default. But the thing that has a stick up everybody's ass, Dan, is the big gameplay change. Which gameplay change do you think it is that has everybody fucking, arguing online? If you had to guess, what's the big one?
For Campaign Evolved?
Yes.
If I had to take a wild stab at it, at least from the short snippet that I saw, oh man, I feel like I should know this, but
you should.
I'm blanking.
It's one of the big three we talked about. We talked about it a little bit already.
Probably the ADSing or the sprinting, one or the other.
Sprinting, there you go, you got there. Yeah, sprinting is the big one, because that kind of all the different things you can talk about with difficulty and casualization of like the heads-up display and the objective markers and the fucking we talked about it last week. My buddy mentioned it to me, but like seeing it again, just like an ammo indicator on the needler is like peak hilarity, shit like that. But sprinting is something that affects the game's pacing, right? My opinions on sprinting in Halo in general come second to my opinions on how remakes should be handled. It's like, if sprinting had been added to Halo as a series and it either clicked perfectly or was modified to fit the Halo formula, kind of like what Infinite did, even then, there are so many reservations I would have about adding it to a Halo remake, where they are making changes to things like level geometry and all that kind of stuff. Like, because again, we got to remember, this is like, you're layering new assets on the original code, so it's not even like the levels are being adapted to match this new sprinting, right? But with sprinting, I didn't like it in Reach, but you could kind of get away with it because of how armor worked, even though I don't really like the armor system all that much. I didn't like it in 4, but 4 was more Call of Duty than Halo, so it kind of worked, even that if that doesn't really make sense for Halo. I didn't like it in 5. But the interesting thing about 5 is it had Spartan Dash, which, unpopular opinion, I think that actually fits the Halo formula better. That's a whole other conversation, but I think that, like, being able to omnidirectional dash in a direction actually fits Halo's formula way better than a traditional sprint, but that's a whole other conversation. And I didn't like it in Infinite, but I can appreciate that it was relatively slow to the point where it didn't really matter, and it doesn't devalue normal movement as much as the other options did, right? But now, going into the remake, and it's just one of those things, man, I, like, my feed, and it's not just like one thing. It's like I'm getting it from multiple different, websites and wherever the discussion is around the web. It's people that are just talking. Like, I saw one guy's like, I sat my son down to play Halo and I had to awkwardly explain to him how it's the best thing. It was the best thing ever back in the day. I'm just like, my God, the game didn't change all that fucking much. It's not like it's so weird to me that it's like, oh, if we just add sprinting, like the thing will be solved and everybody will want to jump into this.
Yeah,
but
no.
it's just been a nightmare of people like shitting on the original Halo when, like, prior to the campaign evolved being, a thing. It was like reverence or understanding of what the game was, but now it's like open season on one of these classic games that has been kicked off. They're just like, oh, it's a stale experience, it was never that great, it hasn't aged that well. Meanwhile, that stale experience like kicked off a multi-million-dollar franchise. Like, it was like, and the like things like the lore were so loved and respected that it was immediately spawning spin-offs and stuff like that. It's just like, you gotta have, at a certain point, you just gotta like learn not to be an idiot with how you talk about these things. But
That's impossible for those people to learn to not be idiots.
yeah, but it's so frustrating to me because there is a group of people out there who will stand next to you and tell you that they love something as much as you do, if not more. Maybe they love it more than you, is what they'll tell you, right? And when that thing that both of you allegedly love gets a remake, you, the person that loves it, may note some issues with it, right?
Yeah.
But then the person next to you that says they love it more than you or as much as you says that the changes were always necessary to get more people to jump into it, and if you have an issue with it, you're making something out of nothing, or, oh, you could just toggle the thing off, why wouldn't you? And it's just like, do we care about these games beyond like how many players can get brought into it? Like, I know player counts is like, it's a fun metric to look at as far as to measure a game's success, but like, is that something that we care about as people playing these games? And the funny thing is, like, years later, if they remake the same game again, those same people will stand next to you and they will cheer on the removal of the very changes they are championing today, because just new thing, different. They were programmed to hear that this is a good thing and like, oh, this will be something that nets new players, so is ultimately good, and aren't you a bad person for bringing it up? It's just like there are games that stand the test of time and are considered classics. They are revered, sometimes widely, sometimes niche, sometimes a game that is objectively niche that just somehow gets renowned and reverence. And it's just like, it's always shocking to me when games in that category, just like a new version of it comes out and all of a sudden like none of that matters anymore. And Halo 1 is in that category. Like 5 seconds ago, it was a well-respected game, but now all of a sudden this remake is the best ever, and if you take issue with any one part of it, you're just not being inclusive enough to people who might like sprinting or rechargeable health or the new changes. And it's just, you're gonna end up, if you take issue with any of the things in Halo campaign involved, you are going to essentially be arguing with people who just want to argue, like defending things for reasons they don't really understand, and my stance with these people is just like, you have essentially proven that you will be happy regardless of what's put in front of you, as if it's just labeled a certain way. you know, I'm not going to call them consumers. Some of them are, but this is a separate issue. There just happens to be overlap. But there's people who just loiter in spaces that make them angry and ultimately become conditioned to be reactionary. So it's like, if you, me, and one other guy are like aligned before an announcement, like, hey, this game's pretty good. It doesn't really need this. We don't like sprinting in Halo. Halo 1 is really good, right? Let's just line it up that way. The second it gets announced, you and me will be like, hey man, sprinting doesn't really work in Halo. And then the third guy will just be like, why do you care so much? It's not a big deal, you know, just shut it off. Don't sprint. You control the buttons you press. That's always just such a stupid fucking argument. And to those people, I just have to say, man, you guys should just log off. You know, there's no reason to argue about positions you seemingly yourself don't care about, but for other people, that makes no sense to me. You know, just let the side that that wants things to remain faithful or good quality, let them just talk about games, you know? Or if you really don't care about the quality and you care more about number go up or things change to modernize, then at least be honest about it. And I feel like that's something, this is like a topic that comes regardless, but I'm always reminded and feel the need to say those kind of things, right? But yeah, I guess to summarize, sprint as a mechanic in general is not really great for Halo. I don't think it really works for the formula, and it's also not something that's going to get a lot of people to like just come play the franchise. Like sprinting, sprinting is not the key. Yeah. I'm sure there will be people out there who will like sprint through the game, and if you criticize them sprinting through the game, once again, you're a mean person. You can't care about the game's pacing or tone or its presentation because, you know, you gotta let people just enjoy things. You know, like there will be people, I guess, that buy it, sprint through the campaign, and then they're just like, oh, it was awesome, and then like a week from then they've forgotten about it, or they're talking about, it was kind of outdated anyway. You know, my only input is I guess sprint can work in some places. Halo is not there, but if I say that too loudly, people will get frustrated with me for not letting people enjoy things, and I'm just a big meanie.
In one Halo game, and it wasn't even like that useful. So
yeah, that's you know, there are mechanics that have been tried in different Halo sequels that make more sense to keep trying than fucking sprint. Like, seriously, reinvestigate the Spartan Dash. There's gold to be found in that mechanic. Stop trying ADS. You know, I'm not going to say, like, oh, Halo 3 should have had, like, health kits or whatever. That's a natural evolution. I get that. Maybe leave it in Halo 1 if you're not up to the challenge of rebalancing the game around it. But, you know, like I said, if we have any complaints of the new Halo, if you or I say that, or anything like that, we aren't being considerate to new players and are making something out of nothing. So I guess the new Halo just looks good or something. I don't know, man. I would much rather.
Pretty sure, but it's not Halo. Like it's just not.
Yeah, it's rough, and we didn't even get into the engine changes because there's like a lot of artistic stuff in there. But honestly, artistic stuff is something to be saved for when like the entire thing or when we see more about it, because I do think that they're missing the mark quite a bit. And I don't know, I'm kind of reminded of like, and this is a deep cut, and I promise I'll stop ranting as soon as I'm done talking about it, but back at, like, I've talked about the Silent Hill 2 remake quite a bit with you, right?
Oh yeah. Before
the Silent Hill 2 remake, back in 2013 or around then, I forget the exact year, there was a project called the Silent Hill 2 or the Silent Hill HD collection, which is, as it sounds, an HD collection of Silent Hill 2 and 3. And the funny thing about this is they fought an uphill battle because they didn't have the original source code, so they were basically working with development builds to remake the games as they were and then make HD improvements on top of it. And I'm not going to bore you with the full story, but what ended up being in the project, or what the end result was just these two versions of the games that are just inferior in a lot of ways. There's a lot of bugs and glitches and sounds not playing right and games not looking right and filters being broken. But underneath it all is still like the same game, the same experience, right? And the guy in charge of Silent Hill at the time was a guy who he was part of the Western branch. He was basically talking up and down about all these different things. It leaked out that he wanted to change the script and all these different things. But my whole point is, when it came down to it, the games still played the same. There were a lot of hangups and glitches that stopped it from being, as great as it once was, but it was still there, right? He had the audacity to say, with whatever small changes he made to the graphics, which weren't months, he was basically imagining that he was making these changes, right? Because again, it's just a degraded version of the game, but his entire time he's just like, oh, with these new changes we made in these this HD collection, maybe you can get your Mountain Dew chugging Halo buddy to come enjoy some fine digital storytelling. And I'm just like,
all the Mountain Dew and Doritos.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what crack pipe did you get that out of? Like, you didn't modernize the game, and if you did, you would just be pleasing no one. Like, I'll tell you right now, Mr. Hewlett, who is the guy that, his name was Tom Hewlett, he was in charge of this project. I can tell you right now that regardless of what version of Silent Hill 2 I put in front of my buddy Dan here, he's not going to play them. But why I went on this long-winded rant is, like, he said the quiet part out loud, but that's what a lot of developers who are handed these remake projects aim to do or are directed to do, and is make changes that allegedly make them more appealing to whatever audience happens to be modern at the time. And in the end, typically what happens is the game comes out, there's a lot of people online who will either actively defend it or say they're in the middle or don't really care all that much, but will take issue with you defending the original qualities of the game, and then they just act like this useful idiot in the middle. And it's just like a huge kerfuffle. The game comes out, nobody cares, and then like 5 years from now there'll be YouTube videos like that one bad remake of such and such in whatever game. So I guess that's all to say, Dan. I don't have much faith in Campaign Evolved.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're probably still going to play it considering it's on Game Pass.
Yeah, we'll have it,
depending
on whether we have
even
Game
know
Pass.
Because, they beat me to it.
Yeah.
I might not even have Game Pass by the time that comes out. The moment I see a $30 charge in my account, I might just fucking nuke it. I don't know. But anyway, I think that's probably about as good a time as any to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I mean, you got your rant out. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
I honestly have not been thinking about the Halo remake since it came out because I'm just so whelmed, like I'm not even.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's just another thing.
Yeah, I get you. The only reason it's really on my radar is because, once again, I have a lot of, aside from the fact that I enjoy Halo as a franchise, I do have a few people I know who are much, like, we say we're big into Halo. Like, I know people who are big into Halo. Like, they can cite lore and different things off the top of their head right away. And, so I'm a bit more in that realm. Plus, me, I will do the talking for you. I have a stick up my ass about remakes. I am very hypercritical about remakes for multiple reasons, be it preservation.
I have the biggest
and just
smile on my face right now because that is exactly what I would have said. You have a giant stick up your ass about remakes. That's all. I will just leave it at that.
That's fine. And, like, listen, I get it. It's not popular to be the guy that, like, kind of sees where everything's going and understands that, like, I prefer to focus on the integrity of a project, and I see games. I'm not saying you don't see games as art, but, like, I think there's a certain level of preservation there that's intended, and it's just like there's room to remake things. There have been good remakes, reasonable remakes, and things like that. But it's like you need to handle these things, like you actually give a shit. And in a lot of cases, they don't. Yeah. But a shiny coat of paint will win over enough people for the right amount of time, and then people like me will just pick up the pieces later, I guess.
It's a heavy burden, Anthony.
Heavy
Don't
weighs the
falter.
crown. Oh, yeah. I never will falter. You'll need to kill me to make me stop bitching about remakes.
Now that I believe.
Yeah.
And on that note, if you're still sticking around, thanks. This was episode 78 of the Pregame Network podcast. We'll be back next week. Okay.
Yep.
Bye.
Get out.